Good morning and welcome to Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion with me, Pastor Amanda. It is Thursday morning and we are going to begin and end the second book of John. Or the second letter to John as it is known. So it is merely 13 verses, but we can still get some meat out of this little letter here. So it begins by a salutation that says, "The elder to the elect lady and her children." Now, in today's terms, it would be so easy to consider this to be a letter to a single family. But really, it is to a congregation. The elder is absolutely one person. Maybe it is a group of disciples, but most likely it is one disciple, apostle, who does not have a specific congregation, but it's kind of like a wandering pastor. And so he's writing to this congregation. The elect lady would be the congregation, the church as a whole. So he's speaking to this particular church. And this goes back to even how Jerusalem was considered to be a she. And Jerusalem was the bride to Jesus. And so this is a common practice. And then, of course, then the children are the individual members of that congregation. And so that is how it begins. It is speaking, it could have been a family church, and that means being in somebody's home, or it could have been a larger church. But there's discussion about which one that it might have been. But anyways, so there is this introduction of how much he loves this congregation and the people there. And it's because, they know the truth together. And we'll find out a little bit what that truth is based on in just a minute. And he talks about how the truth abides in them. And then he kind of goes on to this really nice, long little introduction, kind of like Paul. "Grace, mercy, and peace will be with us from God the Father and from Jesus Christ, the Father's Son, in truth and love." And so that is just kind of his greeting to this congregation. So, so John goes on to say, "I was overjoyed to find some of your children walking in the truth." So now we're getting to the point, just like that. This word "some" is very important because it means that he recognizes not everyone is doing this. So if not everyone is living in and walking in the truth, then there's something going on. And just as a little reminder, walking in the truth doesn't mean he saw them walking down the street, but that is another metaphor for our journey with God, our journey with our relationship with Christ. And so he's not saying that I was walking down the street one day, but it's probably come to him through gossip, so to speak, or, other letters, or any other information has come to him. Or maybe in his travels he did run into somebody. But the walking in the truth is actually the discipleship's journey with God is what he's referring to. And so, again, he goes by now, "Dear lady, I ask you, not as though I was writing you a new commandment, but one you have had from the beginning. Let us love one another." So again, when he's speaking to the lady, he's like, okay, this needs to be preached to the congregation. Just a reminder. I'm not trying to change things around here. I'm trying to return you back to the original issue from the very beginning, is what he's saying. Like, I'm not writing you to kind of make a mess of things. I'm trying to get things to go back to the way they should be. And what that is, to love means to follow the commandments. So we saw that in the last letter with John, that love and commandments, following commandments and love is really important. And so you must walk in it, he says. So again, that's your journey, your discipleship journey you're on. But then in verse 7, he brings up the problem even more directly. And he says, many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who do not confess that Jesus has come in the flesh. Now, if you remember yesterday's devotion, this was a big issue about Jesus' divinity and humanity. And there are people out there that have different ideas about how Jesus lived on this earth. And so he just pretty much calls those kinds of deceivers antichrist. They don't know who Christ really is. And so he says, be on your guard. Verse 8, be on your guard, that you do not lose what we have worked for, but may receive a full reward. So I think it's interesting to note that, I mean, it is easier to be swayed than you might think. And it's easier to be deceived than you might think. I mean, you might think, oh, yeah, that's, no big deal. But I tell you, it's very interesting to see how many churches, in order to be nice, have allowed little things to slip, even though they know it's not right to do it, or that it's maybe they're unsure, but it doesn't seem quite right, but they let it to continue to slip through the cracks until they only can deal with it once it's a big mess. And this has happened in so many ways where, and I mean, I don't want to get into scary stories and stuff, but we can let little things go because we're trying to be nice. And here he's saying, don't let the little things slip. Be on your guard. I mean, the moment you let one little thing slip through the cracks, you're going to have a bigger problem later down the road. And he goes in verse 9, everyone who does not abide in the teaching of Christ, but goes beyond it, does not have God. And whoever abides in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. Do not receive into the house or welcome anyone who comes to you and does not bring this teaching. For to welcome is to participate in the evil deeds of such a person. It's tough. Right there, that right there says so much of what happens when you allow faith and discipleship to get lazy, apathetic, comfortable within its context, to where you're no longer even living out the gospel. And I mean, it happens in a lot of places where the gospel's not being lived out. The gospel might be heard, but it's not being lived out through that community of faith. And it's because over time, little by little, you would say, is that these ideas, it might not even be a person that's the deceiver, but an idea, a lack of action. This is the way we do things can create evil deeds within the church. That's the hurt of this scripture right here. And so after he says that, he goes, although I have much to write, I have a lot more to say, I would rather not use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to come to you and talk with you face to face so that our joy may be complete. Can I say thank you for some good communication? There are times where there's certain things that just need to be talked about face to face and not written down, not texted, not emailed, not told to somebody else, and then, getting around the gossip vine. But there are times where when it's really hard and difficult stuff, it really does need to be said face to face. There's just something about face-to-face communication that says, how can you kind of correct someone, but also show them that you're correcting them in love? Because coming through on a text or coming through on an email, we put tone that's not there in it or something, or we misunderstand it. And so I love this. Right back then, good communication skills. I want to see you face to face. I want you to see me. I want to see you as we have this conversation, because it's important. It's important. So it needs to be face to face. And then, of course, he does send a greeting of, he calls it the children of your elect sister send you their greetings. So another congregation, probably the one he's at right now, or another congregation that they're aware of. He just offers their greetings, and then that's that. There you go. There's your chapter. And so I hope you got a little something out of that. Maybe brought some awareness to maybe things going on in your own congregation that you're with, and maybe how maybe some things need to be dealt with, talked about, in order to help you to continue to walk in your own journey of truth and love. So, thanks for joining me, Pastor Amanda. Next week, we'll go dive into the third letter of John, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care.